Distribution of strength in the Naruto anime. This is the main video about the distribution of strength in the Naruto anime. I initially wanted to make one more video, but it turned out that 2 parts are enough to express my thoughts. So this is officially the second video. I advise you to watch the previous video, there is a lot of important information. Now I will tell you the information for a better understanding of the reasons why a particular character is on a particular strength level and not on another one. Those who are not interested in the reasons but only need a table, you can use the timecode in the description. Itachi vs Madara. This is the topic that has been worrying the community for 6-7 years and seemed to have exhausted itself, because Madara is a clear winner. Okay, it's not really that clear. As I said, Itachi can defeat Madara with a random shuriken, as well as with a well-aimed fireball. In the end, the best option is to seal him with Totsuka Blade. You can't forget about Amaterasu either, but it may be difficult to hit Madara, who is fast, and destroy his Susanoo. It's also not clear how much skill Madara has in resisting to Genjutsu, which means that the Tsukuyomi option can be counted as a 100% win either. The Izanami, on the other hand, has an important condition. The time loop must be built on the character's rejection of any of his beliefs, so that he can get out of the loop. For example, Kabuto had to reject the idea of improving himself through absorbing new abilities and find a way to accept himself. The likelihood that Itachi will be able to pick up a similar situation for Madara is also not 100%. But even with Sakagari no Tachi, there's a whole bunch of related factors that Itachi needs to deal with. These are stamina and chakra reserves to maintain Susanoo, shortening the distance to attack and hitting the target. Some abilities can be easily answered by Itachi's powerful long-range jutsu, similar to Gokume's Shitsu. So Madara won't really be able to dodge. Even Yato Mirror won't save him forever from long-range techniques. And of course, Madara has a number of other strong points. The key one, in my opinion, is the superiority of Itachi in strength, speed, stamina, chakra, and he simply has more combat experience. Even if Madara doesn't kill him with a direct attack, he will exhaust his opponent, showering him with rivers of fire. Itachi has a chance to overpower Madara, as he has both the right abilities and high intelligence to apply them, and use all possible decisive factors. But this chance is far from 100%, considering how easily Madara can beat him. So Madara won't easily allow Itachi to stand on the same level as him. This example does not take into account many things, but in this reasoning we have enough details and all of them reflect the general essence of the confrontation of these characters. To be honest, I don't think it makes sense to make a complete analysis of the battle. It is not the right choice. But if some Itachi's abilities give him a chance of success in certain situations, in a battle with a stronger opponent everything may become a little more difficult. In the anime community, many fans have their favorites. And the situation with Guy and his opening of all 8 gates illustrates the statements very clearly. The standard combat power of Guy is power from 0 to the 7th gates. Accordingly, depending on his opponent's strength, he decides what gates should be opened. The best Guy can do with his 7th gates is to deal with Akatsuki. He was quite able to defeat Kisame, for example. The 8th gate is simply the top that Guy can achieve. But it is not stable and doesn't last long, but it gives a huge increase in physical capabilities. Yes, all other forms are also limited in time when opening a Hachimon, but they depend on stamina and chakra consumption just like any other shinobi technique. Whereas opening the gates of death is a short-term power booster. It is not a steady increase in power. It is a short increase above the standard limits of strength. As a result, in this form, Guy can fight back against the Madara with a single Rinnegan, being a 10-tailed Jinchuriki. Notice, fighting back and not defeating. Still, even after saying he was near death after the final attack, his wound healed and all the damage he took just disappeared, as if it never happened. Although such a result is far from victory. By analogy with Itachi, Guy is not equal to 10-tailed Jinchuriki and certainly not stronger than him. But with all 8 gates activated, he will be able to fight back against these kinds of opponents. With the right combination of circumstances, in fact, many characters can defeat those who are one or even a couple of levels above them. But let me leave such a topic for later. Minato and Hiruzen can defeat the enemy with a dead demon-consuming seal. Nagato can extract the soul. Sasori can defeat an enemy with a tiny needle. And it is enough for Hidan to get at least one drop of blood for the enemy to fall. However, it is far from certain that stronger opponents will allow them to carry out such techniques. But anyways, the characters I mentioned above have a great chance of defeating those who are many times stronger. So to what level of strength do Itachi and Guy belong? And who else belongs to this special category? You should not wait for a complete analysis of the battles. I will analyze them just until a certain point. I will talk for the most part about groups of characters, naming specific examples for clarity. Well, of course, I will not list all the characters that belong to this group specifically. Therefore, please do not write in the comments, "You forgot Tsukumo, Zetsu, Danzo, 12 ninja defenders, and a few dozen or even hundreds of characters." I didn't forget, I just didn't mention them as an example. Speaking of these groups of character levels, let's take Kage for example. And if we don't mention Hashirama and Naruto, it is obvious that some Kage are not equal to others. Someone is a little stronger, someone is a little weaker. The principle of rock, paper, scissors begins to work for someone. Hence we have the conclusion, in the average group of characters, everyone is approximately equal to each other, not 100%. In addition, some characters will be presented in their various forms, for example Madara without Rinnegan, in Jinchuriki Ten Tails mode and stuff like that. Since such details are held in high esteem by fans who like to analyze battles. And also because this kind of boost is much more stable and lasting than, for example, opening the 8th gates, which means it is a full-fledged new, more powerful form of the character and not a short-term boost. This is just my opinion and not my ultimate truth. And even more, it is not a high-quality guide for analyzing the fights. Everything is simpler here, with a large number of assumptions. Everything said above in this and the previous video will be not mentioned again. Levels of strength. At the lowest level, there are ordinary people who are not trained in the control and application of chakra. These are people who are involved in civilian specialties and who are far from being shinobi or other paramilitary groups. The next level is people who are beginning to learn chakra control, the most common being academy students. After them, I placed on my list those people who have completed primary training, i.e. Genins who continue their training but under supervision of Genins. There are also robbers and other criminals here, fighting with which is allowed in the missions of rank C. After successfully passing the exam for Chunin, the shinobi is actually awarded this title, and this is the next step. In this case, it is worth understanding that Genins, Chunins and even some Junins among primary and secondary characters are much stronger than ordinary shinobi. And it is also worth understanding that Chunins are the backbone of the shinobi community. I draw this conclusion from the example of Might Dai, who remained a Genin in his adulthood. Often ordinary shinobi acquire the title at a much later age than the people of Naruto's generation, as can be seen by looking at the other Chunin exam participants. Also, at this level, I would like to place the rank of ordinary samurai. Since, as I said previously, Chunins are the backbone of the shinobi army, and ordinary samurai are the backbone of the army of the Land of Iron. And also, I want to mention ninja monks, who train by somewhat different rules than shinobi. Their culture is closely connected with the religious component of their activity. And similar to the previous situation, all kinds of criminals and Yukinin, and people equivalent in strength to average Chunins are also located here, on this level of strength. The next is higher ranked shinobi, the Jonin, which unlike the Chunin are not the majority. In addition to the Jonins themselves, I can also distinguish samurai commanders, as well as criminals and Yukinins equivalent to them in terms of strength. I won't mention this further on, as it goes without saying. The Anbu is only one of many units that includes either Jonins or shinobi of comparable strength, unless of course they are Anbu rooted. The next rank is represented by those who are second in line behind the strongest in their village. Those who in the future can become somewhat stronger, gaining experience and stepping one step higher and could potentially take the position of Kage. In some cases, such shinobi from elite units like the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, or they can be skilled users of Keiki Genkai, such as Pakura or Harry, or they lead extremely powerful clans like Hiashi. At this strength level, we can also find the Kage themselves, as well as the shinobi which, unlike on the previous level, are more than comparable to them in strength. often they have some sort of legendary status. And as examples, I can mention Jiraiya from Konoha, the Kinkaku and Ginkaku brothers from the Cloud Village, or the undeservedly forgotten Kitsuchi from the Hidden Rock Village in the new generation. In addition to Kage directly, I can also highlight the other heads of country villages, Hanzo and Mifune. You can put them on the same level as all Akatsuki, but without Nagato, Obito, Itachi. We will talk about them later. I'll also mention those who were haunted by Akatsuki, and these are Jinchuriki. This is where the most specific details begin. Whereas earlier we were talking about groups of characters, now let's talk about Obito and Nagato. Two Akatsuki leaders. Nagato is good, for obvious reasons, because of his skillful use of the Rinnegan. And Obito is impressive because of his invulnerability through Kamui, which he combines with his attacks. And the fact that Conan was able to seriously hurt him about this kind of situation I mentioned above. Besides those two, I also put Kabuto and Orochimaru here. These characters are definitely strong, but Orochimaru is not many times superior to the other two Senins, and Kabuto is clearly not stronger than all the Kage. It's all about Edo Tensei. Then, why didn't I point out the author of the technique, I mean Tobirama? First of all, their technique is more advanced. And secondly, I'm not referring to hypothetical resurrections of anyone, but to canonical summons. They can really compete with the characters at this level. Next, I placed Indra and Ashura's reincarnations at their peak. But before getting such improvements as Madara's Rinnegan and Naruto and Sasuke's half of Hagoroma's chakra, I can't really comment on that. They're some of the strongest shinobi, not just in a generation, but in history. The next up is Madara with Rinnegan. But before and after getting those eyes, it's a different level of power. Just imagine the instantaneous spreading of the Biju being with only one eye. It's impressive. This level has a lot of characters. Let's start with Naruto and Sasuke, who got their powers from Rikudo. Then I placed Indra and Ashura, because Indra fought on equal terms with Ashura, who got not half but the full power of his father. Two stages at once and two Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed, Madara and Obito. Madara is much stronger than Obito in this form, and I just can't put them in the same position. At least considering the fact that Obito was able to overpower Naruto and Sasuke, not yet boosted by Hagoroma. On the contrary, I wouldn't put Obito on the same level, as the Ten-Tailed gives a huge boost in strength, even in comparison to the previous position. Madara even got very close to Hagoromo, as well as his brother Hamura, in terms of strength, while children of Kaguya are the strongest characters born in this world. Actually, the current peak strength in Naruto belongs to Kaguya Otsutsuki. I think it is not necessary to explain why she is stronger than her clansman. But for reference, I will tell you that it was not impossible to kill her, only to seal her up. This was only for those who have the usual position. Now let's talk about the first special category of characters. In addition to their usual position, they, due to their ultimative abilities, can overpower superior opponents. This chance, to put it bluntly, far from 100%, but it is much higher than chances of those who are on the same level as them. Let's start with Shisui, who has the default position here as I think. He ended up being on this list because of his powerful genjutsu Kato Matsukami. And I'll mark the boundary of the potential successful outcome of the fight all the way until the incarnation of Indra and Ashura. Next we have Itachi. About him, his abilities and why he is here I spoke in more detail earlier. Again, as in the case of Shisui, I will mark the border right up to reincarnation. And in fact, he can defeat the enemy who is a couple of levels higher. But if I hadn't included him in this group, I'm afraid many would not understand me. The dotted line defines the border until Madara with Rinnegan. Let's give hope, so to speak. And the last character I put in this category is Might Guy. Because he has always been equal to Kakashi, it is appropriate to place him on the same level as Kage in all sorts of legends. Although perhaps he should be placed one step lower. But let's leave him there. But when the 8th gates are activated, the boundaries of power extend all the way up to enhanced reincarnations. Because he did not defeat Madara in Jinchuriki Ten-Tailed mode in a canon battle, he gave him quite a decent fight, but was still far from a real victory. He can fight the carrier of the Ten-Tailed Beast, but not win. But it's all about winning. Although I repeat that the characters in this category have a better chance than many others, but still far from 100%. So that's how the video is going to end. Yet I strongly recommend watching the previous video. Perhaps I have already answered some of your questions earlier. Give me a like, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell to be notified of new videos, and wait for the next video.